It's great to see so many of you again in person after our last conference, which we did remotely, was a success, but there's no substitute for meeting people and giving you the opportunity to meet each other. Quite a number of new staff, quite an increase in funding over the past few years, so this would be the first time for many of you to meet your colleagues, and I hope you have a really good day. We hope we have an interesting program for you. It's going to be a long day. We're going to do our very best to keep to time so you get away at a reasonable hour. The housekeeping has been done with the exception of one other point that I want to mention, which is that we are recording the conference. We will make an edited version available online for those of your colleagues who aren't able to be here, and the edited version will delete any sensitive material. So presentations by young people will be deleted. Anybody else who speaks and doesn't want to be broadcast, let one of us know. Let myself know, or one of our colleagues, or one of the rep team, or one of the best practice development team, or some of the people on reception, and we'll make sure that that material is deleted as well. Gives me great pleasure to introduce Minister for State James Brown. He came to us when the Youth Justice Strategy had been published in draft form under the previous Minister of State, who would have addressed you at previous conferences, David Stanton, and Minister State Brown saw the strategy through to completion. And he's been spending some time recently, now that the restrictions are lifted again, as you know, getting out about and meeting projects and seeing at firsthand the value of the work that you do, and then bringing that, and he said that to projects, so I'm not giving away any state secrets, bringing that to his colleagues at the Cabinet and saying this is a really good service, we need to put more money into it, and the results of that are shown in the amount of extra money. Minister for State James Brown, who will address us next. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deglon, and good morning, everybody. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here with all of you and to participate in your day. And I hope you have an opportunity to spend time with each other, to get to know each other, those of you who haven't met each other before, and I think learn from each other's experiences and practices in a day-to-day basis, because certainly as I was travelling around Ireland, there's so much in common with all the different youth diversion projects, but also uniqueness to each and every one of them as well. And it's, look, to have everybody here in person, I think is absolutely fantastic. And I hope, as I say, you have a really, really positive day. And look, all of us share the goal of diverting young people and vulnerable young people away from criminal activity, and ensuring that they know what their options are, what their best options are for their lives. I'm immensely proud and thankful for the tremendous work that everybody here is doing on a daily basis, involved in the youth diversion projects and helping those very vulnerable young people to have better opportunities. As I say, I've visited many of these projects across the country, and I've seen very firsthand the really positive work that everybody in this room is doing on a daily basis. And I would like to extend a special thanks to those projects who were very generously gave their time to meet with myself as I was travelling around the country, and I hope to visit many more youth diversion projects. But meeting those various youth diversion projects, meeting the youth workers, early intervention workers, family support workers, the JLOs, and the support staff and management really helps me to inform myself of the work that I'm doing within the department, and to be able to argue on your behalf as well for further funding and further supports, not just within the Department of Justice, but across the government in general, because you have a really positive story to tell. And I genuinely and passionately believe that what you're doing is making a real difference. And when you do things, I think, for the right reason, it's backed up by the research, the kind of research that Sean Redmond is doing in REP. When you have the trained youth workers like yourselves, and that research then underpinning what you're doing, the youth justice strategy, which sets out the framework for what you're doing, that makes a real difference. And that positive story was a story that I'm able to bring, as I say it, to government. And we've seen then the increase in that funding, but that is directly related to, as I say, what you are doing. And ultimately what we want to do is to ensure that the supports that the vulnerable young people need is available when they need it, where they need it, but also that the youth diversion projects have that flexibility to tailor the supports to the local young people, because what's maybe necessary in Dublin city centre might be slightly different than Longford or North Donegal. The principles are the same, but the young people often have different vulnerabilities, have experienced different traumas in their lives that have led them to where they are. And of course, we know that poverty and social exclusion, as well as trauma, play a huge role in why people end up in the situation that they do. What I was also impressed with, and I think youth diversion projects are really showing leadership, is the level of collaboration between youth diversion projects with the education sector, with the Department of Children and the UBUs, for example, with TUSLA. We often hear about silos in government in different departments, and often, different groups and different agencies are doing their own things, and it's only when that collaboration happens you can see the real benefit to that work happening. And I have to say, I really do think that youth diversion projects in that sector are showing real leadership in this and setting an example for right across government. We know there's no quick fix solution, and the full range of reasons of why a young person may be involved in a crime must be considered in our approach. Last year, as alluded to by Declan, I was pleased to launch the whole of government Youth Justice Strategy 2021 to 2027, the successor of the Youth Justice Action Plan of 2014 to 2018. And I was a little bit lucky in the sense that that draft was ready. We had maybe a few tweaks, we had to get it up and launched, but I do want to acknowledge the work of former Minister of State David Stanton in this area, who did a huge amount of the heavy lifting for this strategy, and everybody who contributed to that strategy. That strategy is meant to be a living document. It's meant to be continuously informed by yourselves so that we can learn for best practice and continually tweak that strategy so that we can become, and I believe we are well on our way to being world leaders in our approach to youth justice. The strategy outlined the full range of issues connected to children and young people coming into contact with the criminal justice system. It also includes a number of key objectives aimed at promoting positive behavioural change. It is only by targeting the behaviour that we can break that cycle of young people reoffending. I'm pleased to say there are currently an extensive network of over 100 youth diversion projects across the state, which are capable of supporting over 4,000 young people. The government's commitment to youth justice programmes is reflected in the allocation of €24 million in budget 2023. This is an increase of €2.5 million this year, and that's on the back of an increase of €6.7 million last year. And as I say, the stories that you're able to tell, the positive experiences that you're able to reflect to Declan, to the Department of Justice and to myself, allowed me to go to Cabinet to explain to the Cabinet Ministers there, the Taoiseach Micheál Martin, the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, of the real difference that what you're doing is making on the ground. We have lots of policies and lots of strategies, but this is a real positive strategy that is actually making a difference, and it is hugely positive. So it's because of your work that I was able to, I may argue, for significant increase in funding, and we've gotten that funding, as I say, last year, this year, and I'm confident we'll get additional funding next year as well. And this funding will allow for these projects to achieve full nationwide coverage, a commitment of the Youth Justice Strategy. And that is the priority with the initial funding, to ensure first and foremost that we have full countrywide coverage, that nobody's left out, nobody's slipping between those gaps. And then as we achieve that, increasing funding for early intervention workers or for family support workers, and then also that collaboration piece with other state agencies as well. My department is committed to ensuring that every child or young person who needs access to these services has the opportunity to do so. In most cases, the expansion can be achieved by extending the boundaries of existing projects. However, there are some areas where this approach is not suitable, and as a result, a requirement to establish a number of new projects. The department is ready to advertise for expression of interest to create new YDPs in 4 new areas: South Monaghan, Claremorris and districts, South and East Wicklow and West County Cork as well. The establishment of these new projects marks a significant milestone in achieving the Youth Justice Strategy objective of full nationwide coverage for these vital projects. Our network of youth diversion projects are clearly having a direct and positive effect on the lives of young people across the country. And as I say, and I mentioned, we know that trauma informs so much of young people's behaviour. Nobody is born wanting to commit crime or antisocial behaviour. Their life leads them towards that acts. We know that grooming also happens as well, and that's why we have the likes of Greentown project. It's important to me that we also consider the supports and interventions needed for those young people as they move into adulthood. We know from international research that several factors place young adults aged 18 to 24 more at risk of becoming involved in offending behaviour. In that context, the Programme for Government and Youth Justice Strategy includes actions to develop diversion-based responses for young 18 to 24-year-olds. I think two of the themes that kept coming across in an awful lot of my visits to youth diversion projects are those kind of two inflection points for young people's lives, that transition from primary school into secondary school, and where maybe young people are hitting that 13, 14 years of age, that transition into secondary school becomes very difficult. It becomes challenging and difficult even for the schools as well, sometimes achieve, and they drop out of schools. And we know our prisons are full of people who can't read and write, who have mental health challenges, and keeping those young people in school is absolutely critical. But I think the other inflection point that comes across is when young people hit 18 years of age, and they often then at that point leave in those mainstream supports or additional supports for young people and kind of drop off at a cliff. And that's where we see a significant increase, I think, in people coming into prison, because those support networks are suddenly taken from under them. Now, in the youth diversion projects, there is that flexibility at the moment. Your 18th birthday is not a hard date in terms of giving you that support, but what we're looking at now is extending those supports to that 18 to 24-year-old group as well. The additional freedom, which often coincides with young adulthood, may underlie some of the increased offending among this group. We want to explore whether a comparatively more gentle approach could offer improved outcomes and reduce offending in this age group. My department will publish a discussion document in the coming weeks to facilitate broader stakeholder and general public consultation on the issue. The discussion paper will contain possible options for a programme to divert young adults aged 18 to 24 away from the criminal justice system as an alternative to prosecution in certain limited circumstances. Not everything we do for under 18s is going to be able to apply to 18 to 24-year-olds. One 20-year-old is going on 12, another 20-year-old is a hardened leader within the criminal network. So we're going to have to figure out how we adjust what we do to that cohort and what can be extended and what is not suitable to be extended. The work of these projects not only improves the quality of life of the young people they deal with directly, but also the communities in which they are based. We want to increase community safety by reducing future offending and keeping people at risk of offending away from crime. Prevention, early intervention and diversion are key elements of this approach and the youth justice strategy. The Expert Forum on Antisocial Behaviour, which I chair, was established in the Department of Justice in 2020, and within this group, two separate subgroups have been set up to tackle knife crime and the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes. This forum will continue to examine the effectiveness of existing legislation and will, if appropriate, propose new ways forward, including new powers for An Garda Síochána and additional interventions to support parenting of offenders. The role of the Antisocial Behaviour Forum is not to solve every ill within the country, but what it is an opportunity for different stakeholders across the country to inform what we're doing, to have a direct link into the Department of Justice for their real on-the-ground experience and to help us inform us in terms of policy and legislation. We all know community safety is not just the responsibility of the Garda Síochána, but a wider community as a whole. The same approach is at the heart of the youth justice strategy, and seeking positive outcomes for young people who come into contact with the justice system is a whole of community responsibility. As I mentioned earlier, there's no quick fix, and I think that has to be a real realisation. There are no wrong door policies. Within the youth justice strategy is absolutely critical, but so is also never giving up. Some people, quick early intervention can help them put back onto the right path. Others need a far more serious and deeper intervention. And my department is committed to that never give up approach to repeat offenders, to challenge and assist them in turning their lives around. Every young person deserves the opportunity to improve their quality of life, and my department is committed to providing that opportunity to those young people. We will use all of the tools at our disposal to address the needs of young people and the communities that they live in right across the state. The most important of these tools are the people, the local community workers, the volunteers, the Gardaí, and a host of others. These people who make the vital work of youth diversion projects possible, who divert the vulnerable away from crime and improve the lives of young people. This is not about being soft on crime. It's about understanding and addressing the root causes of crime. It's about understanding that no one is born to commit a criminal or antisocial behaviour. It is about supporting families and giving them the skills and the tools that they need. And it's about preventing victims and ultimately keeping communities safer. And it is, of course, about the individual young people and helping them to be able to achieve their real potential. What you do works. It works for those young people, it works for the families, and it works for the communities. So I want to thank you for your hugely important work. You can be very, very proud of what you do in your lives, and I look forward to seeing more youth diversion projects in first hand into the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to keep popping up and down all day, but there will be lots of other voices. You won't just be listening to me. And some of the voices that you'll hear will be your own voices and people from projects talking about the work that they do. And the next, or the first of these, is a presentation by the Cable Project, a youth diversion project based in County Louth, to talk about the work that they do. And presenting today, we have Emily Murray, who's the senior youth worker, and Nicole O'Keefe, who's a youth justice worker in the project. So can I invite the two of you to the stage, please? And you might give them a welcome.